October 20th, 1967, me and Roger were riding up the creek in Bluff Creek, and we looked to past the root ball to our left, and up stood this creature. Now, you all know the story from here, but this is the confession. So, when I chased this creature up the bowling alley just after the sandbar there, she kind of put her two hands on this log and started to bend over and shake her rear end there profusely, and I saw those Bigfoot cheeks clap. And I looked back, and Roger, he was doing some relaxed dance, and he said, "Now everybody in the club getting tipsy." I'm not sure what that meant. And, well, all I thought was, they really are real. They really do exist. So that's the confession, and Russell Accord can suck my...
That's right, everybody. Welcome back to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Yeah, hearing your own voice in your ears while you're trying to talk just never seems to work out very well. That's right. What goes how in the night? We're going to talk about that tonight, right here, coming up on the Squatchers Lounge podcast. One of the first things I wanted to talk about tonight was to give a shout out to a squatcher. He's in a battle with some cancer and has a surgery tomorrow. And I'm not really going to disclose his name, but let's just put all the healing powers we can get together for our fellow squatcher, our fellow fan of the podcast here, and see if we can't get some prayers out for him. He's a praying man himself, and he has definitely been checking up on me while he's battling cancer. He's checking on me to see how my recovery is. That's the kind of person this dude is. So if we can just lift him up and pray to whoever it is that you pray to, we absolutely don't choose whose God you follow anymore, but for sure. Let's see if we can't get some loving feelings going his way tonight, because he's going to need them through surgery tomorrow, and God bless it. All right, everybody, we are going to talk about audio tonight. That's right, the Bigfoot Howls, and the way we opened up that site, opened up the show tonight with that large screaming howl. Sorry to tell you, but it is 100% fake. It is. It was an approximation that was created for a Bigfoot documentary from the 1970s. I can't remember whether it was Man or Myth, or what it was, Man or Myth, or which exactly, Beast Man. I can't remember which documentary it was, but this was an approximation that was made in a studio that was supposed to replicate the Ohio Howl. And the Ohio Howl is really the first particular type of howl that was recorded of that type. So I've got it here. So let's try and give it a listen. It's a little weak, and I've tried to mess with it and bring it about a little bit, but it's always been a little bit weak. But if you listen closely, you'll be able to hear it. Let's go ahead and give that a quick play. Now, the dogs barking over it make it a little bit difficult to hear, but it's definitely the same type of rolling howl that everybody expects to hear with some kind of when Bigfoot howls are talked about. These are the types of things that we're actually listening for. It is like the holy grail of wanting to get that in your research locations on audio. I will tell you that I have actually heard that audio firsthand. I have we were sitting around we were sitting around. Actually, we weren't sitting around nowhere. I had gotten up very early in the morning. I had gotten up very early in the morning, stirred up the campfire because it was cold. I was sitting there, and sure enough, up over the hill, the opposite way of the cows, those type of rolling, screaming howls that came from the top of the hill from at least three different subjects. There were three different distinctly sounding vocalizations that were coming out of the hills from what seemed to be different locations. It may have been a locating howl. I really can't I really can't speak for sure for what it was, because I didn't see it actually make that call. And that's another point to everything is no one has ever caught a Bigfoot on video making these howls. No one's found the location where the howls were made that had Bigfoot tracks in it. Much like the tree knocking that we attribute to Bigfoot, we don't find the locations where they're actually doing the tree knocking. The sound is there, the activity is there, but yet something still seems to be lacking in the provability factor that these are Bigfoot actually making these names, or these sounds. Now the second one I've got here as an example comes out of Mississippi. Crooked letter I, crooked letter I, PPI. Now and this one's really tough to pull out, but it's there. And turn your headphones up a little bit, and maybe it'll help you hear it a little bit. Now, unfortunately for that one, the recording device that they were using had some kind of an internal issue with it. And you can hear that high pitched hum, staticky thing over top of it. But yet you still hear that rolling, screaming howl that starts from low to high and back to low again. And has very much the same characteristics as what the Ohio howl actually sounded like. And again, let's take a listen to the approximation that was made by a human in a studio. Now, ideally, what that's demonstrating is the fact that a human is capable of making the structuring sound, but you can tell that audio has been processed. They've added in the echo, they've pitch changed it. You can definitely tell that whatever the original subject that was creating that definitely had a lot of an electronic enhancement to go along with it to make it sound as powerful as it does. And that's the difference is, the Ohio howl, the Mississippi howl. I'm going to play the Tahoe howls here in just a couple of minutes. Those really, really, really have the same characteristics in relation to each other, that I would venture out as far as to say that they're probably being made by the same type of creature. But what creature that is, I'm not really sure. Now, this particular call, I'm not really sure what category to put this one into. Let's just take a quick listen to it. Yeah, it could be a Bigfoot, could be a fat girl fart. We'll have to make the chance on that one. Sorry, folks, I couldn't pass it up. Right in the middle of things, but I tell people to turn up their headphones. The Tahoe sounds. Yes, the Tahoe howl. That's what I was talking about. Let's give the Tahoe. There's actually 3 examples of the Tahoe howl, and let's take a listen to the first one. That was more of a shrieking, screamish. Not really sure what that particular sound attributes itself to. Now, here's a second attribute that's attributed to the Tahoe howl. Now, all of these audio clips are actually available on the Squatchopedia 2.0 site that's run by Darren Lee. It really is getting to be a wealth of information. Breaks it down into a host category, into audio, podcasts, video, thermal. I mean, you can really find a lot of the Bigfoot evidence that's out there by going through the Squatchopedia site. Let's go ahead and take a listen to Tahoe howl number 2.
That's it.
Now, again, that's one of those shrieking howls, more so than it is the roaning, moaning howl. Now, Jonathan Sasquatch, I'd be able to tell you, a couple of the other campers that were out there with us at Black Oak, I actually did a Bigfoot call out from camp, and they were a good half mile away from us, down a gully, up a gully, and to the side of another hill. And they were surprised as to how loud my call carried from that far away, that they could actually see me in the distance, because unfortunately the forest had been burnt down around that particular investigation, and we didn't know it till we got there. But even in line of sight, it carries out that loud, even with somebody like me. And at the time, I really didn't have all that great of lungs to listen to, so it was kind of difficult to really say for sure whether they were real screams or not. And let's go ahead and get this third one up here. The last example of the Tahoe howls. Again, with these inferior recording devices that were back in the day, they were actually turning little cassette tapes and recording this stuff on them. It makes it really difficult to hear some of these sometimes, and that becomes the frustrating part of it. But yet now here's another sound, another howl that comes out of Texas. Let's give that one a quick listen. Now, the Texas howl seems to be a much higher pitch, maybe a female, maybe a younger one. Still kind of has that rolling moan to it, but it's just so far out on the edge of the pickup of the capabilities of the microphone that's actually running it. At least this one doesn't have a whole bunch of internal noise when it comes to those types of howls. I mean, that really does become the difficult thing of getting past the dog barking, the people talking, the cars moving, the fact that it's miles away. In the end becomes real difficult. The best audio, honestly, and this is usually the way I set my audio up, is I set my audio off yards away from camp and just let it run out there in the darkness all night long and never walk over to it until the next morning, even if we hear sounds that are going on. So it seems to be a good spot. Let's go ahead and take a moment, and we'll have our quasi theory of the week. That's right, Mr. Dean Cooper. Yeah, he is always with us. So let's take a listen to goblins.
Goblins, their habits and haunts. From Wikipedia, the source we can all quote from and not get sued. A goblin is a monstrous creature from European folklore, first attested in stories from the Middle Ages. They are ascribed various and conflicting abilities, temperaments, and appearances, depending on the story and country of origin. They are almost always small and grotesque, mischievous, or outright evil, and greedy, especially for gold and jewelry. They often have magical abilities similar to a fairy or demon. Similar creatures include brownies, dwarves, gnomes, imps, and kobolds. Whoever wrote this obviously had no real experience with goblins. For that, we must go to primary sources. These sources do not include J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien used the term goblin in The Hobbit. He later wished that he used the word orc, which is not the same creature as a goblin. No, we need to go to someone who has accurately described goblin behavior and appearances. That would be James Whitcomb Riley. He's been dead long enough that I may quote him liberally, like unto Wikipedia, with no ensuing legal consequences. So here goes. Little orphan Annies come to our house to stay, and wash the cups and saucers up and brush the crumbs away, and shoo the chickens off the porch, and dust the hearth and sweep, and make the fire and bake the bread, and earn her board and keep. And all us other children, when the supper things is done, we sit around the kitchen fire and has the mostest fun, a-listening to the witch tales that Annie tells us about, and the goblins that'll get you if you don't watch out. Once there was a little boy who wouldn't say his prayers, and when he went to bed at night, away upstairs, his mammy heard him holler, and his daddy heard him bawl, and when they turned the covers down, he wasn't there at all. And they seeked him in the rafter room and cubby hole and press, and seeked him up the chimbley flue and everywheres, I guess. But all they ever found was his pants and roundabout. And the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. And one time a little girl would always laugh and grin and make fun of everyone, all her blood and kin. And once when there was company and old folks was there, she mocked 'em and shocked 'em and said she didn't care. And this, as she kicked her heels and turned to run and hide, there was two great big black things a-standing by her side, and they snatched her through the ceiling, for she knowed what she is about. And the goblins'll get you if you don't watch out. And little orphan Annie says when the blaze is blue, and the lamp wick sputters, and the wind goes woo, and you hear the crickets quit, and the moon is gray, and the lightning bugs and dew is all squinched away, you better mind your parents and your teachers fond and dear, and cherish them that loves you, and dry the orphan's tear, and help the poor and needy ones that clusters all about, or the goblins'll get you if you don't watch out. From my own experience, you can catch one in a properly baited snare utilizing locally caught free-range naughty children. They have a nice pelt and they taste like chicken. The goblins, that is. Don't eat the children. You can sell their leftover bits to the wicked witch down the street, thereby destroying the evidence. You may read the text of this on my blog at bhaidin.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
That's right. Biden.com. Hey, let's give a shout out here to all y'all hanging out in the live hangout chat room here. I appreciate everybody that comes and hangs out live with us during the show. That's for sure. We got the Reverend Tim McHugh is with us tonight. Hello there, Reverend Tim. Glad you're with us. We got Aaron and Mary Duncan. They're hanging out with us tonight. Remember, if it's emojis, it's Aaron. If it's text, it's Mary. That's just kind of the way it goes. Titan Glass 88. Hello there, Titan Glass. Hello, Bella Allegri is with us as well. That's right. It's time to get your howl on with the Reverend Captain Two Gun Kelly, Cannon Barrel Kelly. That's what they're going to be calling me here pretty soon. Jen. Nice to see you, sir. Glad you were with us. Frank G. Hello, Frankie. Glad you are with us tonight as well. The Reverend Rod Dupree. He's always in a place to be. And tonight's show is not for children under the age of 13. If you believe your parents love you, well, go ask them. You might be surprised at their answer. Karen Robb, how are you? Glad you're with us. And the Can Squanch is also in the house tonight. I believe his pronouns are he, him, and his. Trey Thomas. Hello, Trey. Glad you're with us as well. Did I? Yeah, I did. I'm sure I did. There's the Lance Windsor. Hello, Lance. Glad you're with us tonight as well. Kelly Williams thinks that the Ohio howl is fake. That they had a big male Alaskan Malamute that sounded exactly like that. And when he howled, hey, it's possible. Like I said, I've never heard, I've never seen the animals that are making these howls. Very well could be, but I can tell you that I've been in places where there shouldn't be any of those breeds, and I've still heard the howls. So, I mean, at 9,000 feet and above, people aren't really up there with their Alaskan Malamutes very much. And, we're usually the only people for, 50 square miles probably. Rod Dupree, the Reverend Rod Dupree. He's always in the place to be. Kevin K. Hello, Kevin K. Glad you're with us tonight as well. Call your Wilmus. That's right. It was a fat squatch. R Roulette. That's right. Hello, Mr. Roulette. Glad you are with us. Tommy from Boston. It's a wicked pisser. Hey, Tommy. Can park the car in the garage at Harvard Yard. Matthew Rudy. Hello. Glad. I don't think we've seen that name either for a while, or maybe it's new. Hello. Glad you are with us. I put it in. Let's see here. Laura Tarnowski. Hello, Sacramento Kelly. You're right down the road from me here. You should seriously, if you're into Bigfoot and then you're into this kind of stuff, hang around, come back to the show, because we're going to Willow Creek next year, and we are going to go visit the Patterson-Gimlin film site, and it's going to be an epic camping adventure. I've already got some people that are looking to reserve some spots. So June, before Father's Day, that's what I can tell you so far tentatively. After the first of the year, we'll be able to go ahead and start putting in and making dates for it. We'll figure out exactly when it is that we can go. And it should be before fire season. So we should get in there before any of the seasonal fire stuff starts. And it's going to be, we're going to stay in Willow Creek at a BLM site so that we're close to all of the kitschy kind of Bigfooty stuff that's around. And then we're going to take a day trip up to the film site and back. And hopefully I'll have a member or two of the Bluff Creek Project come out and meet us and take us down for a tour of the site. Hopefully Rowdy will be able to do that with us. He's a buddy of mine, and we'll see what happens. But that's the plan for now. Okay. Let's see here. Just a second. Let me collect my thoughts a moment. Okay. All right. Back to it. Sorry. My dog was literally just Trudy Lou is a handful. I can promise you that. All right, folks. please show your proof. I'm not sure what we're looking here to prove. Do you have anything to prove? There's lots of proof of Bigfoot out there, Matthew. I mean, I'm not sure why you're here to try and disprove Bigfoot, but it's probably not going to work too well in our chat room. Just letting you know, just kind of giving you a heads up. Yeah, so back to it. That's right. Back to Howls in the Night. Now, one of the stranger All right, sorry about that, folks. Yeah, we had a little bit of mishap. The Fruity Lou, the wonderful beast that she is, unplugged my computer and it shut it down. So we're back live. Sorry, it took us a couple of minutes to get the system back up and running, but we are here. Give me just a couple of moments here, and I will have the other things up and available for us. And we can go back to what we were about to talk about. We were about to talk about some of the craziest Bigfoot audio that has ever actually been claimed. Oh, son of a bitch. Okay, give me just another minute or so because it didn't save any of that. Yeah, good thing this show is free, right? Okay, this is where it is. Number 1, number 2. And then I have to change this to crap. No, I don't want to change it to crap because crap is bad. 11. There we go. There we go. Okay, almost there. Almost there. Almost there. Here, enjoy it. Okay, there. Now, for any of you out there that don't know, that's the samurai chatter. That's the samurai chatter from Ron Moorhead and Al Berry's Sierra Sounds. It just, it doesn't give off the approach of animal in any stretch of the imagination. Now, you have to understand that these people actually thought at the time that Bigfoot were a lost tribe of some sort, supposedly something maybe even higher elevated than humans, without the need for fire or that types of things. Now here's a second file that goes along with that. That's just take a listen to it.
Right there, I just seen movement right through there. Right there, I just seen movement right through there.
So there's the second example, and that is actually Ron Moorhead himself interacting with interacting with the supposed Bigfoot that were only some 60 yards away. But in the same token, you know, these men were in a known used hunting a hunting camp that had been used for hunting camp for 2 decades before that. And before it was a hunting camp, it was actually a sheep camp where they used to graze sheep up on the mountain, and that was the camp that they actually put up and protected the sheep overall. So it's a very human contacted area constantly, but yet they continued to go up there for years and years and years after. This is like 1973. This is like 5 years after the Patterson Gimlin film. There, other than Ivan Marx's Cripplefoot and a couple of other things that were done in the early 70s, you know, this was kind of like the next big thing. It was the next thing that was out there, and they made a big production out of it, and they had records, actual real, you know, vinyl records that people put on a record player and, you know, put the needle down on and listen to this crap. Voices in the Wilderness, I believe it's called, the Sierra Sounds. Al Berry was a reporter for the Sacramento Bee, and it's just, but then you take something like Jonathan and I experienced the day that we were packing up there at Lau's camp off of Bluff Creek. And there's a vocal anomaly that didn't come from camp. And it sounded like weird gibberish. You know, at one point in this in one point like this, it's the samurai chatter. It literally sounds like the Bigfoot asks, "What the fuck?" I mean, it really is kind of laughable that goes back and forth. But what we know about the reference of the samurai chatter is too much for their own good. We know when it was made. We know how it was made. We know who made it. We knew what the conditions were. We also know what type of recorder they used, what kind of microphones were available, and the fact that they had to trek all that crap up there on horseback and donkeys. You know, they only came in 30-minute tapes, and they ran on D-sized batteries that didn't last but a few hours before the batteries were done in them. So you'd get 4 or 5 of these half-hour tapes on a set of batteries. So just how many donkeys in your train carried, you know, recording tape and batteries to get all of that stuff up there to the camp to be able to record for as long. They were up there for a week. I mean, that's 24 hours a day. That's 48 hours of tape a day if they ran 24 hours, which, you know, I don't remember what the claim was, but, you know, 48 tapes a day times 7 days, that's an awful lot of tapes. Yeah, but I digress once again. I sound like I'm a poo-poo or a Bigfoot a lot, but it's the shepherd, it's the reverend who has to lead you through the wade of crap that is the Bigfoot world to try and find some of the useful information that's out there from some of the believable people that don't have an end agenda. What the hell is a nephriditis? Maybe you mean Nephilim? I'm not sure. I'm confused on that on that particular comment there, Scotty Bear. Mr. Fang checked back in with us as well. Hello, so glad you're here. You know, so where are we on Bigfoot howls? They're heard all over the country. I've heard whales like that in several states out here in the West, Oregon, Washington, California, several times in California. So, like we've talked about before with Bigfoot whoops, the howls seem to be a continual thing that Sasquatch researchers or investigators, I hate that researchers word. Bigfoot investigators tend to hang on to, and it's just, I need to see something make that sound before I can attribute that sound to anything. Elk, cows, bulls, they all make some weird ass sounds out there. They absolutely do. I'm not really sure. Not really sure how we are going to be able to quantify Bigfoot howls. I'd like to hear some more examples of clear audio, something that would be able to be analyzed in such a way that we could discount a lot of things that it shouldn't be. And that's pretty much where we're at. We still need more evidence of the Bigfoot howls to actually attribute them to Bigfoot. That's the camp that I'm coming from this time. And that's pretty much where I'm going to stick with it. Hey, this week's episode is brought to you by the Indian River, or the Indian Creek Salmon Hatchery. That's right, Gold Beach, Oregon. And Gold Beach, Oregon. If you got a couple of extra dollars you want to donate to something, send them up there, because they put 90,000 fish back in the river every year. So if you fish in, anywhere on the Pacific coast, you say thank you and maybe send them $20. With that, that's how we're going to wrap up this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. I love all you guys. I thank you so much for being here. I did fail to put up a file on the Patreon, and I popped a couple of stitches and I reset my recovery a little bit, but Nefertiti, oh my God, with friggin' Sasquatch Ontario, or Ontario Sasquatch. I can never remember which. There's a good one and there's a shitty one, and I can never remember which one's which. But has anyone mentioned to you seeing a severely scarred one? Severe pink colored scar on the right side of the face, missing an eye, another jagged scar running down their right arm. Well, Kelly, we talk about this all the time. When it really comes down to it with Bigfoot, you're gonna have you're gonna have examples of everything. You're gonna have examples of Bigfoot that got into a fight with a bear and lost or won. I don't know how you do that. You're gonna come into Bigfoot that had to battle it out with a mountain lion. You're going to come in across Bigfoot that might have gotten hit by a truck and actually still survived. You're going to come across mentally ill Bigfoot. You're going to come across Bigfoot with multiple personalities. Some of these people would say that, you're even going to come across trans Bigfoot. I don't know. It might be true. A male Bigfoot believes he's a girly Bigfoot. I'm not sure. We haven't we haven't had enough experience through them. I'm being silly now. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that in jest. I'm not one of those people. But yeah, for sure. You're going to have melanistic Bigfoot. You're going to have non-melanistic Bigfoot. You're going to have white-skinned Bigfoot and dark-skinned Bigfoot, just like you do with bears and just like you do with all the other animals that are out there. They're going to be there's going to be the entire host of DNA that runs through those animals, much like it would with any other primate. Upper primates being what we expect them to be is some sort of an upper ape, a great ape, that's what we are. We are one of the grape apes. I used to love grape ape, great apes. Are they above us? Are they Nephilim? No, I don't think they are. I think they're a paranthropus, and I think we've always had paranthropus living on the planet. And in this day and age, they're just a little more far and few between because of all the crap that we've taken over out there. So, yeah, absolutely. There would be some that are scarred. There would be Bigfoot fights amongst themselves. There would be territorial disputes. There would be disputes over food. There would be all kind of weird stuff that went on. And who knows, maybe he took an absolute ass beating as a kid, and that's just how he got scarred up. One will never really know until we find a way to track them and watch them. I mean, I don't want to capture them because I don't think we'd have the capabilities of being able to care for them properly. I don't think we'd be able to give them enough room to actually roam and be comfortable. And when we don't do it for we don't do it with the great apes that we already keep in captivity, like the gorillas and the chimps. I mean, those are very, very sad to me. But yeah, like Scotty Bear says, sometimes you'll even see tracks with toes missing. I mean, you're going to see like the cripplefoot. There's going to be instances of just genetic defect as well. It's one of those things that if Bigfoot exists, which I know they do because I've seen them several times. Since Bigfoot exists, then they have to follow the same biological rules of everything else, and they're going to have defective ones, and they're going to have perfect ones, and they're going to have everything else in between. So, anybody else? Any other questions before we wrap it up tonight? I'd be glad to take care of it for you. Other than that, we're going to give you a Bigfoot campfire story and say thanks for being here. We'll see you next week, and may the Squatch be with you until we meet again. That's what I'm looking for. There we go. Sorry, folks, you don't want to stare at my face as as we listen to the Bigfoot Campfire Story of the Week. Love you guys. Mean it. Prayers out to our buddy who's going in for surgery tomorrow, and I hope everybody has a fabulous night. God bless, and see you later. Oh, crap. No. Wait. Yep, there it is. Okay. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. These stories are based upon true events. Welcome to another Bigfoot Campfire Story. As a young heathen, I was exposed to both my Irish and my native backgrounds. I spent many summers on the Cherokee Reservation with family members from nearly the time I can remember. Even back in the early 70s, many tribal ways were still followed, and the oral history was passed down at almost every meal. We were sitting around a campfire, much like this one, when my great-great-uncle Standing Deer told us this great story. Many moons ago, before the white man came, our dealings with the hairy man were much different than they are now. My grandfather's grandfather said that on ceremony nights, the hairy man would come into camp sometimes, as many as a dozen, and sit on the very edges of the firelight and watch the tribe. As the warriors would dance and drum as they circled the fire, the hairy man would grunt and drum on the ground to the beat, almost as if they were chanting. We were always told not to venture too far from the firelight, as the hairy man did not like us to stray into their dealings at night. Daytime was for us, and nighttime was for them. But every now and then, the story of those that did not listen would be told around a fire, again, just like this one. A tribeswoman and her daughters were traveling at night to the next village. Her mother was sick, and they needed help, and with no time to wait, she gathered their things and set off for the next camp. Women of the tribe did not travel by horseback, so they set off on foot in the dark of night. They managed to get to the top of the ridge without much delay, but the moon was now dark and the night cold and long, while the next village was some 10 miles away through thick trees and forest. The woman traveled with her 2 daughters, the oldest 14 and the youngest 12, all of them experienced in the ways of the tribe, and the sick family member in need. They were to get there without haste to their destination. After a few hours of walking, the mother realized that they were no longer alone. Something had picked up the pace, and she knew it was not going to be good. She grabbed the girls by the arms and told them to run and get help, that the village was only a distance away now, and the girls took off to get help. The girls looked back just in time to see the creature come out and smash their mother to the ground, and then the girls were out of sight, running as fast as they could. It was a giant size, some 9 feet tall, with red glowing eyes, an awful stench, scraggly gray hair and skin. It pushed her to the ground with ease, and it rifled through her basket and things that fell to the ground. She sat there in fear as the hairy man ate the food it could find, then snatched the woman up and tossed her over his shoulder and took her into the woods. The daughters made it to the next village, and as they could see the firelight, they began to scream and cry to alert the village to the danger. Many of the warrior braves came out, and they heard the mother was fearful of an animal attack, and since she wasn't behind them, she was surely in trouble. Many of the tribal men gathered up the horses and their weapons, and they rode out to find the woman. Alive or dead, they would certainly find out. The girls had been specific about where they were, and the men found signs of a struggle and the woman's belongings strung about the area. It wasn't long before they found the giant man-sized tracks and realized it was Hairy Man that was the attacker. They quickly picked up the trail and followed it to the rock caves just a few miles ahead. As they approached the caves, they could hear the woman's cries, haunting and quiet, as it wasn't long before they had a plan to rescue her. The men did not want to kill the hairy man, as they knew that would bring bad medicine on the tribe, so they planned to draw it out and distract it as others went in to retrieve her from the cave. The men set off, and he climbed above the cave. They set a fire on top and began to chant and hoot as they make their presence known. The ruse worked as the hairy man ran out of the cave to see what was going on. As the hairy man exited, just then 3 braves entered the cave, gathered up the missing woman, and took her from the cave. The men on top of the caves had left their diversion with the fire burning and returned to the group, now including the missing woman. The men took to horseback and began to ride from the area with haste. They could hear the hairy man screaming upon returning to the cave and finding the woman now gone. They had thought they were safe, and as clear as the group rode hard and fast for the village. After a time, they arrived back to the village and got the woman inside for help. She was banged up pretty bad with bumps on her head and cuts on her back and legs. She told the story of how the hairy man tried to breed with her over and over, but never got it figured out, as it was frustrated when the men showed up and they rescued her from the creature. She didn't feel it wanted to hurt her. It just did it in size and frustration. As she finished telling the story, the village heard a loud screaming call from outside the camp. The men rushed to the edge to see the hairy man pacing back and forth near their horses. He yelled and screamed out as the men stood ready to defend the village. Finally, Hairy Man, with one giant swipe, broke the neck of a colt nearest him and dragged the animal off into the night. From there, everything went silent, and the night concluded without further event. The next day, the woman's daughter tended to her family members and helped care for their mother until she was recovered. After the men escorted her and her daughters back home to tell the story. That was the last time we remember hearing of Hairy Man taking someone at night, but we still stay close to the fire, as one never knows when Hairy Man will show up for you. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.
And a late shout out to the Brown Dwarf. I didn't see you hanging out there, buddy. I guess you came in while I was in full reboot. Mr. Fang 3 was an also late arrival as well. So glad you guys could come out and join us tonight. We will see you next week. And may the Squatch be with you.